So what are the top 5 things that I love as both a reader and a writer? Stay tuned to find out. Hello everyone, it's me, Scarlett Kol, a young adult author, YouTuber, and storyteller, and I'm here today to talk about the 5 things I like as both a reader and a writer. This might sound like a weird kind of video, and it is a little bit different, but it's basically coming from the amount of research that I've been doing on TikTok. So if you're wondering what kind of research can you do on TikTok, and no, it's not just to find new dance moves, it's basically to find out what people are reading, what do they enjoy, what are those things that keep people from wanting to put a book down. So I've been spending a lot of time on Book Talk, looking at tropes and looking at all of those various different things that people are really enjoying. And some of the things really ring true to me. Some things are just totally not my jam. But as I was going through that, it made me reflect a little bit on the things that I really like to write. Because just because I'm doing this sort of research and seeing the things that people like out there, I have to kind of marry that with what I want to do as a writer. Because if I'm just writing everything that everybody wants, but I don't particularly like it, it's not going to be a good experience for me and it's not going to be very fun. So while I was doing this, I came up with some things that I would like to see in books. And as a writer, I've included them in various different works that I've already done. And it has definitely made the experience a lot more enjoyable. There's some of these that I'm going to be talking about that I've written into books, and I've been literally giddy after finishing off writing that scene or that section. So let's get started. So for number 1 on my list of ridiculously specific things that I like as both a reader and a writer, we have the repeated line. So this could be something that someone has read, but usually I like it most when it happens in dialogue. And so basically what this is that something earlier in the book, you'll also see this in movies and stuff as well, where a character, typically not the main character, will say something, and it could be something totally random and has to do with something else, or it could be something that the main character just doesn't quite understand yet. And then we hear that line repeated towards the end of the book when the main characters finally got the message, or they have finally been able to put that information together and put it into practice. I love seeing this, and sometimes you can even twist this a little bit. You see it a lot in hero stories where someone mentions something very mundane up front, and then towards the end, the hero realizes this is what they need to kill the bad guy, storm the castle, do whatever it is they need to do. And I absolutely love that. It's this great, like, underdog, yes, they get it moment. But you can also see it in a lot of different genres as well. So I've seen it before as it has been a compliment and then it turns into an insult, or it's an insult and then the main character uses as a compliment later in the book. One kind of weak example would be in the movie Bring It On with Kirsten Dunst. Earlier on, her boyfriend is telling her that maybe she shouldn't be cheer captain, maybe she's just not captain material. And then later on in the movie, we see her confront him when he's cheating on her, and she says, maybe you're just not boyfriend material. So that isn't exactly the same wording, but hopefully you get the message of that sort of stuff. Also, if you are a Magicians fan, in season 4 of The Magicians, we do hear one of Quentin's professors tell him a little bit about his magic, and then he repeats that line right at the season finale at this very, very pivotal moment. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And it just really ties everything together. But when the line was said originally earlier in that season, I believe, we don't really think too much of it. In fact, it actually sounds like he's kind of putting him down a little bit, but it turns out to be kind of his superpower at the end of that season. So I just really love when you can take that and bring it kind of full circle within a story. You can also see this used in mysteries and thrillers where somebody has a very mundane clue at the beginning and it becomes this big piece towards the end. So it can be used in multiple different genres in multiple different ways, and it is one of my absolute favorite things. So as soon as I see it show up later on in the book or movie, I will definitely have a smile on my face. As a writer, this is super fun to do because you know you've kind of planted it in there and you're kind of waiting for your readers to find it. It's super fun, and if you haven't tried it, maybe it's something to give a go. Number 2 is a little bit more broad, and this is the almost kiss. As a reader, I absolutely love it. The tension is just so, every single time somebody has this in a book or a movie, I am on the edge of my seat just waiting for that kiss, and then it doesn't happen. One thing I really like from a reader perspective on this, and having been a writer now, I do get to see that is the almost kiss almost has a little bit more anticipation, a little bit more tension than when they actually get the kiss at the end or later on in the story. I think part of that is just that the writer knows that they're setting you up for a fall. So that way they are just really, really trying to ramp that up, knowing that you're not going to get the payoff. As a writer, I know that's the case. I really want people invested in that scene. So that way, when I basically rip the rug out from under them, it's going to feel all that much worse. And I also feel like I need to give them a little bit of something because they are not actually going to get that payoff, so that they're going to want to keep reading and not want to put that book down. Fortunately, because I do write romance into most of my books, I do get to write an almost kiss in almost all of them because I am pretty much a slow burn romance kind of person. I enjoy reading it. I enjoy writing it. So almost kisses are an almost given every single time I'm going to be writing a book. I have included them in pretty much most of the works that I have, and some of them have been really, really dramatic, whereas basically the entire king's army has interrupted that kiss, or it can be something that could be really subtle and sweet in the sense that one of the characters maybe changes their mind, or it just kind of drifts off and it isn't quite the right moment. That's the thing I love about it. You can really change it up and do a lot of different things with it, even though it's the same trope, it's the same setup every single time. So if you love an almost kiss, let me know in the comments, because that is one of my absolute favorite things of all time. Number 3 is the double entendre or double meaning scene. So if you look at the definition of double entendre, it says that it's something that has 2 meanings at the same time, while it is usually risque. And I'm using the words double entendre as well as double meaning because it doesn't necessarily have to be risque. However, a lot of really good ones I've seen have been. However, I know from writing them that it doesn't necessarily have to be. And this is basically where you have 2 characters and they are discussing something, and what they're talking about isn't actually what they're talking about. They're either talking about their feelings or they're deconstructing something else, whereas everybody else, and it's usually in front of a group of people, are thinking that they're talking about the main topic at hand. So for instance, I have this in one of my books, and it is like literally one of my favorite scenes I have ever written ever in life. And it is 2 characters that are in an English class, and they are arguing over some plot points of the play Macbeth, and it gets very, very heated. However, how we've worked everything in for the rest of the story, the reader knows that this is not what they're discussing. They're discussing some things that have to do with the main plot, as well as the friends to lovers romance that hasn't quite blossomed yet. So as the reader, it's very, very satisfying because you know everything they say is just basically them kind of processing those things about this relationship, about the things that are happening in their life. And it isn't necessarily about Shakespeare at all. So I really, really loved writing that scene. Every time I see it in a book or movie or anything like that, I absolutely love it. So if you have any really great examples of this, you can leave them in the comments because I would just like to watch more of them. It is one of my favorite things to write. It feels masterful in terms of pulling those puppet strings and really making your characters work for, that happy ending. For me, this is one of the things I love to read, and one of the things I absolutely adore writing. Number 4 is Easter eggs and inside jokes. So one thing I really like when I'm reading a book is when you're just reading along and something comes up and is referencing, maybe something else in the series. Maybe it is a joke about something that's going on in the world or another TV show or something in that genre that it's not completely explicit, but if you know the genre well, or you know the content well, or you know the series well, you're gonna catch it. And I absolutely love finding these as a reader because it makes me it's almost like this little extra hint into the story. It's this little piece of almost getting to know the author and their sense of humor and what they value and what they find important, and just also this connection point. Because if they are referencing something, let's say from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that isn't going to be completely obvious to everyone else because they're not saying exactly where this is coming from, then I'm just going to feel a little bit more, part of the club as a reader, being able to see those things. From a writer's perspective, it's just really fun because when you are putting these sorts of things into your work, it isn't guaranteed that any of your readers ever going to find them, but one of the funnest things is when your readers do come back and do notice those sorts of things or comment on them, and it's like, yes, you got it, you figured that out. It's almost like creating a puzzle or dropping, those little bit of breadcrumbs for your readers. That's this extra special bonus on top of the story that you're already giving them. You don't necessarily need to find the Easter eggs. You don't necessarily need to get all the little hints to understand where the story's going. You don't actually need it for anything. It's just there, and it's just this like little extra bonus. And as a reader, I feel really smart and included for it. And as a writer, it's just fun. And the fifth thing, if you are an enemies to lovers fan, you are probably going to agree with me on this, is I love banter. I just love really well written banter. And one of the reasons for that is it's usually very witty. It's very easy to read. You're going through things relatively quickly, and it gives you a really good connection between the reader and the characters, and seeing the characters connect as well. And sometimes it can be negative banter, like in enemies to lovers. That banter that they're going to have, as entertaining as it is, it may not actually be very affectionate. Or you might be able to see two friends who have known each other for years, and they just have this great banter and rapport with each other. And it really kind of highlights character so well, and some of the best dialogue lines are always in the banter pieces. So that is something, as a reader, it is like the ice cream with the cherry on top. I will just eat it with a spoon. I love banter that is written well, of all kinds, between all relationships, in any book. As a writer, banter is also really fun to write, because this is a chance where you get to stretch your muscles with dialogue a little bit. You get to, maybe be a little bit funny, maybe be a little bit different than the rest of the prose of the book, especially if it's something that's very heavy. It also typically doesn't have a ton of action or stage direction, so you can usually write it really fast, and you can really just focus on the dialogue and the characters, and not as much of all the rest of the stage direction and setting that you normally have to put into a chapter. Granted, you can't have banter for chapters and chapters and chapters, because then it's just going to get grating for the reader anyway. So these are usually relatively short sections, but it is sometimes a nice relief from writing some more, heavier type of prose. And when you go back to edit it and to read it, if you find yourself kind of smiling or laughing or giggling along with your characters, you've done it right. All right, so that's my 5 oddly specific things I love as both a reader and a writer. And since most writers are readers first, it's really cool to be able to take those things that you love and incorporate them into your work that you also love, and be able to mix them up, change them, make them your own, and provide them to a whole new set of readers for them to enjoy as well. Speaking of writing, if you're interested in indie publishing, you might want to check out the Publish and Thrive course hosted by Sarah Cannon from the Heart Breathings channel here on YouTube. I have taken this course myself. It is 6 weeks of modules, where it takes you from everything of conception of yourself as an author and your brand, through the nitty-gritty of how to actually publish your books, and onto bigger concepts such as marketing and mindset as an author, which has been a very popular topic in indie publishing circles these days. She has actually just re-recorded the entire course, so it's going to be a brand new offering. And if you have taken the course before, like me, then you actually get lifetime access. So I'm actually going to be kind of going through the course again, just to see what all the new details are and to check out all the updated and current stuff. She also offers a kind of live Q&A sessions once a week for each of the modules as you go through. And it is so great to be able to connect with somebody to answer your questions. And Sarah just has this wonderful, infectious sort of personality, and she just has this positive way about her that you will absolutely enjoy. So I have included a link in the comments below if you want to check that out. It is an affiliate link. I do get a little bit of a kickback if you do sign up through my link. However, it doesn't cost anything for you. However, whether you want to look through my affiliate link or you just want to look it up your own, that's cool. I definitely recommend it. It is one of the courses that I've taken that I absolutely, totally 100% endorse. So if you are interested in indie publishing, check it out before they close on the weekend. Maybe this isn't the time to take it. Maybe you want to take it later. She usually does offer it at least once a year, but I do definitely recommend it. However, before we go, if you do have any interesting, odd, very specific reader-writer things that you love, put them in the comments below, as I would really love to check them out. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys all next time.